25th, 2022. I'll call the meeting to order and ask for the roll call, please.
Councilmember Abdelgawad?
Here.
Councilmember Barber?
Present.
Councilmember Berenson?
Present.
Councilmember Burke?
Present.
Councilmember Forster?
Present.
Councilmember Holman?
Present.
Councilmember Townsend?
Present.
Councilmember Wills?
Present.
Mayor Turnbow?
Present. We have a quorum. Before we go into the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd ask the audience and the council members to please recognize a moment of silence for the loss of Officer Daniel Vasquez with the North Kansas City Police Department. He was unfortunately killed in the line of duty, needlessly killed in the line of duty last week. And please keep he, his family, and his fellow officers in your thoughts and prayers, please. Thank you. Now, if you'd please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under presentations this evening, we have a couple of items. The first one is a proclamation, and I would ask Nathan Mustine to please join me. I realize the month of July is just about over, but it was actually Parks and Rec Month, and I wanted to provide this proclamation to the Parks Department. And the many members that are here this evening, as you see, is every one of your staff here this evening? Almost. Oh, well, that's a good excuse. So anyway, we have our Parks Department here with us this evening. Several members from the Park Board are also in attendance. And I'd like to read this proclamation. Whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the city of Raymore, Missouri. And whereas our parks and recreation programs are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas our parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, now therefore I, Christopher P. Turnbow, Mayor of the City of Raymore, do hereby proclaim the month of July 2022 as Parks and Recreation Month in the city of Raymore, Missouri, and encourage all citizens and guests to celebrate Parks and Recreation Month by visiting Raymore's 7 parks, 4 linear parks, over 20 miles of trails, and 286 acres of parkland. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Raymore to be affixed this 25th day of July, 2022. And while I'm presenting this a little late in the month, and I apologize for that, I do want to say how proud we are of you and your team of people. As almost every council meeting, someone is providing accolades for your successes, and we really do appreciate everything you do for the community. Thank you, Nathan. Okay. Well, thank you again, Nathan, and thank you to the team for being here this evening. We appreciate you and everything you all do. The second item under presentations tonight is the State of the City address. As you're well aware, the charter calls for that usually in the month of May, but with everything that's been going on here and resurgence of COVID and things we've been trying to get past with regard to the things that we're trying to do here in the city, we've delayed it just a little bit, and tonight we saw an opportunity to provide that on the agenda. So if you don't mind and you'll put up with me for a few more minutes, I'd like to read to you our state of the city. Change is never simple. Even change for the good, like progress, can create uncertainty and even fear that can divide an entire community if not handled properly, or with the kind of leadership that we have come to expect from our elected body. In the past couple of years, our city, our region, and even our nation has experienced an incredible amount of change that will be simply considered normal to future generations. Not only have we had to sustain services in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, but continue to address the challenges of a growing community. Our series of community conversations, first starting in 2016, and which we intend to continue, have helped define the future of our community. The conversations help define who we are as a community and built a strategic plan for our council, our staff, and residents to navigate some incredibly challenging projects that will continue to push the envelope and deliver more housing, amenities, and opportunities for our residents, not just today, but for generations to come. It is because of the vision and leadership of past council members and those who sit here today that I am proud to say that the state of our city is strong. Do we have some fiduciary challenges that lie ahead? Yes. But we are in the midst of foregoing a path forward for our citizens to weather these tough times and still provide the city services they have come to know and expect. Now, the root of all of this success, of course, lies with the incredible staff under the leadership of City Manager Jim Fearborn. Even in the worst of the pandemic, our staff continue to work every day to deliver services, protect our residents, and guide growth during the last couple of years. They continued to work through dynamic changes and sometimes unpredictable circumstances, and we see their successes through national recognitions for our parks, our public works accreditation at the highest level attainable, public safety leadership, and continued accolades for our fiscal responsibility. We know our residents recognize the incredible work by our police department, but just recently, our Chief Jan Zimmerman was recognized by her peers in the Missouri Police Chiefs Association as the Police Chief of the Year for the state of Missouri. That's an award that recognizes her lifetime of law enforcement work and dedicated public service, not to mention what she's been doing recently in the Kansas City metropolitan area and for the state of Missouri. Now, even as we said goodbye to longtime Development Services Director Jim Carteret, I was confident that our planning and growth management would not miss a beat. With that transition of numerous staff members throughout the city, and it hasn't. Our staff for years have been doing more with less. The time is now for our community to pass a use tax with question P, appearing on the August 2nd ballot, to be applied to certain out-of-state and online sales like Amazon to help fund new positions in the police department, public works, and our parks maintenance divisions. With its passage in August, we will be able to hire at least 4 new police officers to help keep our growing community safe. And public safety, frankly, is our #1 priority as an elected body. A minimum of 2 new public works and 2 new parks positions would also be created to aid those departments as they continue to maintain our infrastructure and parks to the highest levels. I would encourage any resident who is skeptical of this need, and it is a dire need, to come and discuss the budget with city administration over the course of this next week. There's no doubt our economy is in a turbulent time, but those challenges do not reduce the need for these positions. Our citizens deserve the best services possible, and I fear what will happen should we not be able to staff our city with an appropriate amount of employees to meet the needs of our community may be dire as well. As responsible fiscal stewards, we know how important it is that our residents trust how we spend their tax dollars. But as we grow, this is the responsible and right thing to do. And at the same time, supports our local brick and mortar businesses who often lose business to online sales due to an inability to compete. And that time is now. There's no doubt that our community is growing. We continue to lead Cass County in residential and commercial development and are regularly recognized at the regional level as one of the most innovative communities in the area for development. This is because our staff recognizes the importance of building a community that is welcoming to everyone and where everyone can find their own way to come home to more. In just the past few years, multiple single-family housing developments have been approved, with more on the way. There are currently 203 single-family homes under construction right now, with hundreds of additional lots on the way. But having a balanced housing stock and options is imperative for a diverse community like Raymore. For many, single-family homes are not the only piece that builds a successful community. Not everyone's American dream includes a house with 2 cars. Not everyone's American dream includes a house with 2 cars, excuse me, I lost my place there. Our new, younger residents are looking for a place to call home that comes with different luxuries, is low maintenance, and is close to restaurants, shopping, and other amenities. We are a far cry from being considered an urban center. We want to maintain that small town feel and sense of community. But I firmly believe that it is incumbent on us to build a community that can offer a variety of housing options. It goes beyond just young residents, as our Community for All Ages Gold Net designation proves. Our efforts bring diverse housing, touches all age groups. During our community conversations, we have heard loud and clear from our residents that they want to see more sit-down local restaurants and entertainment options in our community so they don't have to drive elsewhere for these amenities. The biggest driver of commercial development is our own residential growth. The first question any developer will ask when looking at sites in our community is how many people live in the immediate area? How many can walk or bike to our location? How many will drive by on a given day? We have tools at our disposal that help us attract these businesses, whether it's investing in infrastructure, coming up with creative ways to partner with businesses, or using incentive tools created by the state. All of these options allow Raymore to attract a strong and diverse group of businesses. This affords us the opportunity to have a say in the kind of quality development we have seen over the past decade. We see time and again the projects brought to this community have been incredibly successful. Already we are seeing success as we welcome new businesses like Scooter's Coffee, Buff City Soap, Lutfi's, Wingstop, and many others. Construction continues on Whataburger, and in a few short months we will be able to sit down for dinner at our new Johnny's Tavern. Already we are also seeing unprecedented investment and expansion at Compass Health, which serves our community's health needs and is a vital primary employer. We also know the continued development of the Raymore Commerce Center and the city's partnership with Van Trust will provide valuable employment opportunities for this community. These businesses and the nearly 250 other businesses that have reinvested in our community over and over are the success stories that prove our growth management and planning is second to none in Cass County. There are communities throughout the Kansas City region that only wish they had the kind of success we see and at times take for granted. Ultimately, though, it is incumbent on us as elected leaders in our community to educate ourselves or seek out guidance from staff on how these tools work and what advantages they bring to the table when we sit down with a business to begin the planning process. We owe it to our residents to have a full understanding and share with them, honestly, how our city guides the kind of growth our residents have asked for. None of the success we have seen, even under rapidly changing circumstances in our region and throughout the world, would have been possible without the valuable input from our residents. At the end of the day, they are ones at the top of the organizational chart. That is why we will once again be holding a community conversation in just a couple of days on July the 27th. Only this conversation will have the specific focus on growth and what developments our community would like to see in the next 15 or 20 years. Our residents and business owners will get to lend their voice to the conversation about where parks should be located, what kind of businesses we want to attract, and in what portion of our city. Building the future of our community cannot simply rest in the hands of a few. And so I am personally inviting everyone to lend their voices now and in the future, and to use the online tools that our development staff have created to help make your voice heard in this vital area. We know we are not the tiny bedroom community we might have been once 20 years ago. With an incredible school district attracting new families and an emphasis on public safety, our community continues to be one of the fastest growing in both Cass County and in the entire region. We continue to see more people move here because of the incredible community we have built together. Our challenge is to ensure that no matter where you move within Raymore, you can find what you are looking for. Apartments next to top quality amenities, single-family homes for your growing family, or maintenance-free condos for those looking to downsize or retire. Everyone has a place here in our community, and no matter your stage of life, you can always come home to more. Thank you. So we have no personal appearances this evening, so we'll move on to staff reports. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Mustine to make a report for Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, members of the council, I've submitted a written report, a couple highlights. Obviously, this is Parks and Recreation Month, so we had our biggest event of the year at the beginning of the month with the Spirit of America. If you were able to attend it, I think you'll agree that it was highly successful this year. We had a lot of people. Captain Wilson and I both agree that it was probably the largest attended event since I've been here, and that's been over 20 years serving the city. And I agree. I think my staff that have been here that long agree that it was by far the largest event we've had. So very successful. Happy to be able to provide that event for our community. One thing is our concessions had a record year this year during that event, and we had 9 or 10 food trucks all sold out again. So I think we could put 20 to 40 food trucks out there and it'd still sell out. So just a great event. We have, let's see, the mini mud run is coming up in a couple weeks out at Hawk Ridge Park. We've still got about 3-4 weeks before that event, and we've already got 140 registrations right now. So we're anticipating that to be a fairly large event as well. And Lego Camp starts on August 8th. We have about 10 registrations, and we can take about 10 more. It's more of a smaller camp, but we want to fill that. So if you know anybody who'd like to be in there, have them give us a call or check us out online. Last thing is I just want to thank my staff. We do a lot of stuff, very little resources, and put on a big show all year long. And these folks right behind me, they get the credit, not me. I stand up here every week and you tell me how great it is, but they're the ones who make it all happen. So just glad to be able to bring them here tonight and allow you guys to see them and tell them what a great job they do. So thank you, and that concludes my staff report.
Thank you, Nathan. You guys do a great job, and I know I said that previously when I was giving my proclamation, but in particular the Spirit of America thing, I'm still getting accolades for that, although I didn't have a thing to do with it. It's awesome. You guys did a great job with that, and I know the police department needs some credit on that one too, Chief, because I'm getting accolades on how well the people leaving and the traffic left, how well that was organized. And so it was just a well-rounded, well-organized event, and very much appreciated by the community. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to ask? Yes, Mr. Holman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Excellent report, Nate. And thank you, and thanks to the entire Parks Department crew for being here this evening. You have done a fantastic job. You focused on the things you've done. Can you give us some of the things you're going to do? I'm specifically looking for a projected timeline on the Hawks Nest Playground.
We have a lot coming up this fall. The Hawks Nest Playground, the equipment is ordered, and so we're estimating around September 1st for all the equipment on site, break ground, and it should be about a 6-week turnaround project. So we'll have a grand opening this fall. I don't want to give a specific date because that'll jinx it, so let's just call it this fall. But a lot of other projects in Hawk Ridge Park, the west side on the soccer, that groundbreaking is next week when they start construction. And then we're going to talk about the rack later tonight. The east side of Hawk Ridge Park is also under design and scheduled to go out to bid later this fall. So a lot of those projects we're just ticking off the days on those.
It's exceptional, sir. Great work. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Musteen. I would ask Ms. Harmer to make a report for communications.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. The Mayor spoke about the use tax, which is question P on the August 2nd ballot. I just wanted to do a quick rundown of what that actually is, just in case anyone still has any questions. So the local use tax, a local use tax is a tax on the purchase of goods by Raymore residents from out-of-state vendors that do not collect the local sales tax. The vast majority of these purchases are online purchases from sellers like Amazon. The use tax is applied to the same products that would be subject to this local sales tax if those products were purchased in a local Raymore store and at the same rate as the local sales tax, which is 2.5%. A Raymore resident will never pay both a local use tax and a local sales tax. It's just one or the other depending on whether the purchase is from an out-of-state or in-state seller. And voter approval of the local use tax will not increase the local sales tax rate, and it is not a double tax. The state of Missouri and Cass County already collect a use tax on items that Raymore residents buy from out-of-state sellers. And why is the city of Raymore asking residents to consider a local use tax? And if you were listening to the mayor's state of the city, you probably got a pretty good idea of the reason why. It's that the city is understaffed in the departments of the police, public works, and parks. With voter approval, the revenue, an estimated $1.2 million a year, generated by the local use tax will allow the city to create additional full-time positions of sworn police officers, public works maintenance workers, and parks workers. This is to provide public safety and respond to calls for services for our residents, to provide infrastructure services for the entirety of the city, which is also essential to public safety, and to maintain our parks, athletic fields, trails, and playgrounds. Around half of the city's operating budget expenditures already go toward personnel. There's nowhere in the budget to divert $1 million a year to create these positions. Traditional revenue sources to fund city services are continuing a downward trend. An example, franchise fees for landline and wireless telecom services, which have dropped approximately 66% in a decade. However, the city still needs to fund these essential city services that impact our residents every day while operating a balanced budget. And a reminder that our budget is a public document available at raymore.com/budget, and the city does have limited resources. So again, as the mayor said, in the state of the city, anyone who wants to come in and look at the budget with staff, not me, I'm not really a numbers person, but our city manager, Jim Fearborn, is definitely willing to sit down with a cup of coffee and go over these numbers with anyone who has questions. He did say that. I'm not making that up. Okay, thank you.
He did say it.
And anyone with questions, again, I do encourage you to visit our website at raymore.com/question P. There's a lot of information on there, and also to contact me here at City Hall. And just a quick rundown. If you spend $50 online from an out-of-state seller in an applicable purchase, that's $1.25 that would come back to the city of Raymore. And those purchases could add up to creating those positions to serve our community. So thank you. That's all I have tonight.
Any questions? Thank you, Melissa. I know you've been working hard on this, and we appreciate you continuing to educate the folks in our community with that. Thank you. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ms. Harmer. Just want to give council a couple of scheduled dates. Next Monday, August 1st, we will be having a work session. 3 items currently on the agenda for that work session. One final use tax update, because we can't get enough information out there. Council meeting times, and there will be mayoral appointments on the agenda for next Monday night. The following work session, Monday, August 15th, 2022, is the presentation of the city manager's proposed budget. That meeting, as has been in the past, staff is proposing that that meeting begins at 6 o'clock. In case there are a number of council questions, we want to be sure and give you all a thorough presentation and give time for questions and answers. A final item that I want to let the council know about is staff was informed today that the 58 highway closure for the roundabout has been extended to August 8th. That concludes staff reports this night.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Yes, Mr. Townsend.
No question, but while it's fresh in my memory, before I forget, I will be out of town on August the 6th, so I will not be at the August the 1st, excuse me. I will not be at the work session.
Okay. Will you be out of town on election day?
Early vote.
Oh, okay. All right. Good man. All right. Anyone else? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We only have 2 items under the consent agenda this evening. First one being the City Council meeting minutes for July the 11th, 2022. And second is the Johnston Drive Sanitary Project acceptance and final payment. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve consent agenda items A, City Council minutes for July the 11th, 2022, and item B, Resolution 22-18, Johnston Drive Sanitary Project, acceptance and final payment.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. The motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda, both items. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. I say opposed? Abstain. Okay, so we have 7 yes and 1 abstention. Motion carries. We'll now move on to unfinished business. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3725 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3725 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, amending the zoning map from BP Business Park District to PUD Planned Unit Development District, and approving the preliminary development plan for Raymore Commerce Center South, a 262.09 acre tract of land located south of 195th Street, east of Interstate 49 in Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. There was previously a public hearing on this issue, and if there's no further questions of staff, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3725, Raymore Commerce Center South PUD and preliminary plan.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3725. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3733 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3733 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with J.M. Fahey Construction Company for the 2022 Street Preservation Project, City Project Number 22405201, in the amount of $1,306,175.50, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3733, award of contract for the 2022 street preservation.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3773. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3736 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3736 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing an amendment to the fiscal year 2022 capital budget.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item. Mr. Townsend.
I move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3736, budget amendment 2022 street preservation.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3736. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3734 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3734 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Terry Snelling Construction, Inc. for the 2022 curb replacement project, City Project Number 22409-201, in the amount of $588,705, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. If there's no further questions on this item, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of it.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3734, award of contract for the 2022 curb project.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3734. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. And the last item under old business, could I please have the second reading of Bill 3735 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3735 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with J. Richardson Construction for the 2022 Stormwater Improvements Project, City Project Number 22406-202, in the amount of $246,582.50, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. If there are no further questions on this item, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of it.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3735, award of contract for the 2022 stormwater improvements.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I will second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3735. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. We'll now move on to new business. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3732 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3732 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with SFS Architecture for the design and consulting services for the Raymore Activity Center expansion project in the amount of $300,000.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Mustine to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thanks, sir. Mayor, members of the council. Before you deny it is a recommendation for award of contract to SFS Architecture for the design and the development, construction documents, bidding, and just general administration of construction for the expansion of the RAC. This is one of the bond projects from the 2020 election, and we are excited to bring this to you. We opened this project up for request for qualification. We did receive 2. And we went through a pretty rigorous interview process on 2 different interviews with both companies, and felt like SFS really rose to the top, as they always do. They've worked with us on previous projects before, and once again, they proved that they're the best in the business, and we're happy to recommend them tonight before you. This is a budget-driven project, so we'll work with them to stay within the means of our budget and provide the best expansion and provide the most amenities that we can put out there at the RAC. And I know that my staff and I are really looking forward to that expansion and all that we can do for that. Let's see, a couple more things. Tonight, Kwame Smith is here. He is representing his team with SFS, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the project if you have any, but staff does recommend approval of this contract. And that concludes staff report.
Thank you, Nate. What was the original budget for the overall project that we, I know we put a bunch of numbers together when the GO bond was passed.
It's a $3 million project.
$3 million, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Any questions of the designer? No, okay. Thank you, Nate. If there's no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3732, award of contract RAC expansion design services.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I will second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3732. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3730 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3730 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Central Salt LLC for supply delivery of bulk road salt.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. Staff prepared a request for proposal to provide delivery of bulk road salt to the City of Raymore. The request for proposal was publicly advertised. 3 vendors responded to that advertisement and requested documents. The quote for this contract was received on June 9th, 2022. Based on the results of those, Central Salt is, and in consideration of the fact that Central Salt is the current supplier of bulk salt to the city, and they have provided reliable and excellent service. Staff and I would recommend award of this contract to Central Salt LLC as the best and lowest bidder to provide this particular commodity to the city, and we can answer any questions that the council might have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff? Thank you, Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, sir.
If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
I move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3730, award of contract bulk salt.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3730. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Now move on to the last item under new business. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3737 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3737 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the Ascend First Final Plat, a 9.94-acre tract of land located south of Dawn Street, east of Sunrise Drive, in Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Gress to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mayor and council, the request before you this evening is on behalf of Griffin Riley Property Group. The request is for the first final plat for the Ascend at Raymore, overall the development. It would create a 9.94-acre tract of land south of Dawn Street, generally east of Sunrise, and would create a developable lot again for the Ascend at Raymore townhome community being proposed by Griffin Riley Property Group at this time. Most recently, the council would be familiar with this project. It did appear before the council back in February of this year on February 28th. Most recently, it was rezoned from its previous M1 light industrial zoning district to an R3A multiple family residential district as a first step for that project. Within that included most recently the presentation before the Planning and Zoning Commission last Tuesday, July 19th, where they did vote 9-0 to recommend approval of not only this application, but in tangent with it was also the site plan for that property as well, which again included, I think, 112 townhome units within that. So the next step would be plotting the property for development. So that concludes staff report. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Gress. Any questions of Mr. Gress? Thank you, sir. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item. Mr. Townsend?
Move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3737, Ascent at Raymore final plat.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3737. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. That concludes new business. We'll now move on to public comments. If anyone from the public would like to address the council at this time, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. See no one coming forward, so we'll move on to Mayor Council communication. And Ms. Abdelgawad, I'll start with you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just start with a great job on the state of the city. You covered a lot of topics that are really important to the city right now and that have been over the course of the last year and that will be in the future even as well. So nice job on that. It was great to hear that tonight. And then just a couple other things that came up tonight that I'm excited about. One, the expansion of the rack. That's something that when we first started planning for a community center of sorts here in town. It's been was a long time coming. Then we got the rack, and when we planned it, we knew that it wouldn't remain the building that it is now. And so just excited that sitting on this board for so long, we've always been able to think about what's coming next, you know, as we're planning and as we're doing things. And so we knew more was to come there, and so it's always exciting to see that next step. It's great to have the Parks Department here tonight. You guys, honestly, what the mayor said all the time, we're up here saying what an awesome job you guys do. I hope that Nathan comes back every week and lets you know. If he doesn't, then you can either watch the meeting or just bug him and say, so what'd they say this week that we did good? Because almost every week, somebody up here says something great that you guys are doing. So keep up the good work, and thanks so much for all that you do. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ullman.
Thank you, sir. I would concur with Councilmember Abdelgawad's comments. She's spot on everything. I will not be able to be at the community conversation this week as I have to work, and I work second shift during those hours, unfortunately. I've been at all the others. This is the first one I'm going to miss, and just an unfortunate circumstance, but I won't be able to be there. Last thing I would leave you with, sir, is, and as a Navy man, you will understand this in regards to your speech and our future. Tip of the spear, sir. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Burke?
Thank you, Your Honor. Got to spend a little time out in my yard on Friday, and because I'm trying to get my driveway in code compliance this week. We'll put some rebar and new concrete in, and maybe I'll have a floor without a crack in it in the garage, but it'll be good stuff. But as I was doing that, getting everything out, I looked out past, I could see my sign that talked about our question coming up, and I saw actually somebody that's sitting in the audience with a big beard drive by in a Parks truck going by. I'm like, hey, they're working on stuff. I'm working a few more minutes later, and a bicycle patrolman went down my street, and it was like 96 to 99 degrees. And I looked at my heart rate a few minutes later, and I went ahead and took a break. But I appreciate that you were out there, because it was brutal. And I think I mentioned that back in, I don't know, March or April, that we're coming up on those times where it's just, I don't know how much laundry you have to do each week, but it's probably considerable. Thank you so much, though. Thank you. Parks.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Wills?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I wanted to say that my reasoning for abstaining tonight was because I was sick last week and I had to miss the meeting. I do want to say thank you to Mr. Murdoch and to Mr. Furborn for getting a link together for me. I wasn't feeling well enough to log on, but I do appreciate the flexibility and the willingness of our city staff to always make these things possible for us. So thank you very much. I do appreciate that. I also wanted to say that you did an excellent job. It was a very interesting speech, and it was really enlightening to hear all of that. So as far as the mini mud run, I am super excited about this. I know a lot of kiddos that participate in this, and it is always an event that they are looking forward to. So congratulations to the Parks Department for putting together such a successful event. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Townsend?
Throw me off there.
Kind of the same, kind of go the same theme here.
I wasn't paying attention to the cycle there, but
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I also would echo the comments of my council colleagues. Excellent state of the address this evening. I was half expecting the same pomp and stance of a federal level. You're being marched in by Mr. Furborn and announced. We probably need to do that the next time just to really give it the due attention that it deserves.
Shake hands with everybody.
But I do appreciate it. It's excellent report and excellent summation of our community. Again, outstanding. And to our Parks and Rec, outstanding again. You continue to set the bar for the area. And as Mr. Burke has stated, if for those who are on the fence regarding our question P, consider, as he had artfully stated, as you're driving by in your car in your air conditioner, you're looking out your window in the air conditioning, you see our Parks and Rec, keeping our community and our parks the top-notch parks they are. You see our police, out on the bicycles, or you see our public works, taking care of the curbs, or trying to get those potholes filled, or trying to get those sidewalks put in. Consider that they're out there in those elements, and we're asking you to provide us an opportunity to give them some help. So again, as you're considering the merits of this program, that's what we're asking for your support in, so we can provide them some help so that we can maintain this community at the level that you expect it to be. And then one item before I forget, from the TTPC meeting this past week, the Transportation Committee meeting, very robust discussion regarding the I-49 and some of the things that they added onto it. So we look forward to the comments from the MARC board. But one thing that came out, they are also reviewing the comprehensive plans at their level, and they're engaging to have like a three-phase program where they're going to be reviewing the local communities, and they're starting that in August. I advise that we're already in our process of reviewing, so you may want to have staff reach out to them because they're going to come to the communities in August, which I believe at that point we'll probably have been reviewing ours at that level. So just to kind of get ahead of that, reach out to Mr. Achapole to let them know that ours is near completion. So that, and the purpose of that is just to make sure that what Mark is doing at the region and their long-range plans are aligning with the local communities. And so we want to make sure that ours are in agreement, particular to our transportation and transit needs out in this community. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. And again, thank you to staff. Outstanding job. Hopefully, when I return from my trip, we have some positive news that you got some help coming. So again, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I probably should just say ditto because I don't really have any new content here, but I will say the same thing that others have said. Thank you for the Parks Department for being here tonight. Yeah, I can't imagine doing your job in the heat out there, so hats off to you guys for doing that, guys and gals. Mr. Mayor, great job tonight on your State of the Union address. I found it very thoughtful and insightful. You did a great job on that. For those that are still on the fence for question P, I know Mr. Fearborn has mentioned you can come visit him in his office or call him on his mobile phone, and you could probably also ask our Parks Department or our Police Department or our Public Works Department if they could use some extra help, and I'm sure they would probably be able to answer that more effectively than even I could. So again, if you're on the fence on question P and you're just not quite sure, please reach out to somebody and get some information to help you make a sound decision when you vote August 2nd. And that concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, excuse me. I do want to, probably going to repeat myself here, but Parks Department, you guys do a great job. And that Spirit of America was, it didn't seem like there were more people than before because they said Police Department did and Parks people did such a great job getting us out of the parking lot, and it was just a phenomenal time. And Mayor, you ordered the best weather that we could have for that, so it was really a good time. Great memories. I know it was a lot of memories made there. I wanted to talk a little bit about question P, and obviously everybody get out and vote on August 2nd, but the use tax, you made a comment in your State of the Union, Mayor, that Raymore 20 years ago basically was a bedroom community. Things have changed. A use tax wouldn't be that important 20 years ago, but things have changed to a point that is very important, people's purchasing habits and things of that nature. So for this city to continue to go for another 20 years, this is something that's vital. And again, if you don't know, you don't have enough information about it, there's plenty of ways to get it, but it is important, and it's being, the way it's being focused on how it's used, that didn't just, Mr. Fairborn didn't pull that out of a file. He did a staff study, a very comprehensive staff study, and he can show you that our city does more with less than any other city comparable to our size. So it is very important. Remember, August 2nd, get out. You do have a voice in Raymore. You have it this week too in the community conversation. Participate in that as well. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Ms. Forster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say I'm excited about the community conversation. I've been involved with them, and I hope more people will come. I know that they said there's a few more spots, maybe not food, but you can still come because we want to hear what you have to say. Also, I would second the mini mud run has always been a blast. It's fun to see the kids lose their shoes and just covered in mud. It's always, even if you don't have kids, offer to volunteer, help out our Parks Department a little. It is always a great time. And then also, I'm with everyone else. Parks, thank you. You guys do a lot, and that's what makes Raymore great. Nate gets a lot of the credit, but we know it's you guys that's doing the work for him, making him look good. So, thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you. And you've heard from me enough this evening, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
I move that we adjourn from the regular city council meeting for July the 25th.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
The motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? It's unanimous. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.